Welcome to the Fathering Strong podcast, where we connect, engage, and empower fathers to be the best dads they can be for their families and communities. And now, your hosts are Bruce Stapleton and Pastor Eli Williams.
Welcome to the Fathering Strong podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I am Bruce Stapleton, father, grandfather, certified SCORE mentor, and entrepreneur.
And I'm Eli Williams. I'm a husband, a grandfather, a father, of course, an author, a pastor. I'm president of Urban Light Ministries, which is the nonprofit that powers Fathering Strong.
Well, Eli, we're going to talk a little bit about sort of keeping your balance today. Sometimes it feels like, all we ever do is just work. Life gets in the way. It's like a rat race. Got some questions in regards to, do people feel like they are missing out on really those important events, with their kids and with their wives and with their spouses based on their work schedule. So I think this is a really important topic for people to really understand, especially now as we're going virtual and the boundary lines between work and home are even, farther away than they used to be. So let's talk about keeping your balance, this week's blog post.
Yeah, this is a good one. I really enjoy this topic because I've been working on this for my entire work life. We appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much. And hopefully something is said in this conversation that is going to be helpful to you, especially if you are unhappy in your job. You're not alone because there are lots and lots of people really feeling like they're burned out. Some research is suggesting that 77% of workers report burnout at some point in their current job. 77%. That's a huge number, Bruce, isn't it? Wow. And a 2023 survey by the Future Forum showed over 40% of workers say they are currently burned out. That's a lot of unhappiness going on. And some of it is due to a lack of work-family balance.
Yeah, I think that imbalance really creates issues, with spouses, with kids. I know throughout my career, there are many times that, the kids would want to know, where's dad? And, why doesn't he come to my events? So you get a strained relationship, with that overall work-life balance with your kids. They're looking for that bond with their dad. And if you're working and you're not at the soccer game, or if you don't go to their performances, you sort of lose some kind of credibility as you go through that. And I think it also hurts the relationship with your partner because it just puts more burden on them. They've got to do the child rearing and clean up and be the chauffeur all the time and take over all those responsibilities. And I think that's really hard on the relationship. So you really need a really good supportive spouse. And then obviously you're setting a negative role model to your kids. They see that basically what you're doing is more important than they are. And I think that's a hard thing for them to grasp. And you really need to help them understand how important they are in your lives and show that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Work-life balance is so important. We really can't stress this too much. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I remember when my son, he grew up and he went off to college, of course, but he made a comment one time, and I always tried as best as I could to be present whenever he had a game or something going on at school. And I think I did pretty well. I wasn't there 100% of the time because, I had a career I was working on, and I was balancing a lot of different work-related things, but I tried to prioritize family and home and be there for his stuff. And it kind of broke my heart when he could name every time I wasn't there. So his whole emphasis was on the times I wasn't there, despite the fact that I think I did pretty good in being there by far the majority of the time. But it just illustrates how important it is for us dads to be there as much as we can, because the kids really are paying attention. And there are other reasons as well that we should try to have a balance in our lives. And some of it has to do with the actual work. that we do. You know what I mean? The work that we do can be impacted by a lack of balance, such as having too much stress. It just puts a lot more pressure on us when we feel like we're constantly being overloaded with work. It takes a toll both mentally and physically. And so finding a balance helps to reduce those kinds of stress levels. It's just calmer when things are in order, when we're not rushing all the time. There's a great book. I'm trying to remember the name of the author. Yeah, John Mark Comer wrote a book called The Relentless, The Relentless, I put my thinking cap on here. The Relentless Elimination of Hurry. That's it. The Relentless Elimination of Hurry. Great book. I read it before I went on my sabbatical a couple of years ago. That really helped me to begin to see that I had to make some changes in my life so that I didn't feel so rushed all the time. And when we have reduced stress, we sleep better. And that puts us in a better mood. It even helps us to have a stronger immune system. So there are lots of reasons to strive for a work balance. When we feel like we have a life outside of work, it makes us more engaged and productive at work. It's funny how that works. But we feel more complete. We feel more whole because our life is more than just what we do. It's about who we are and whose are ours. It makes us really a better person. And that helps with building relationships and strengthening relationships that we have in our lives. So we're not constantly working. We've got more time to invest in our relationships with our parenting partner, with our family, with our kids, with our friends. And that too leads to a more fulfilling life. And who doesn't want a fulfilling personal life? It just helps your overall well-being. Even when it comes to lowering employee turnover, employees are happier. They're happier with their work. They're happier with their work-life balance when they have it. And so they're less likely to lose their jobs or to leave their jobs because they've got a balance going on there and they're okay with the work that they do and the lives that we're living. And so that helps employers. If you are an employer, this is really important for you to understand that it is in the best interest of your own bottom line to help your employees achieve and maintain a balanced life when it comes to their work and their personal lives and their families and all of that. It can actually reduce your turnover, which reduces your losses. It also helps in attracting new talent, and it helps you in retaining talent when people feel like they are being respected in that their personal lives and their family lives are important to their employer, and the employer is willing to be flexible and to help their employees to have a balance in their lives. You're more likely to attract more talent and you're more likely to maintain the ones that you have. So overall, I don't see any losers in this. It's win-win all the way around for everybody, for employees, for employers, for families, for kids. You just can't lose taking a balanced life approach. And it's really essential for health and happiness and for a productive work environment.
Yeah, I think the sooner you can realize that in your career, the more successful and the more healthier you'll be. I noticed, as I was grinding in my 20s and 30s and, head down, full speed ahead, everybody that I noticed that was successful or had the higher positions would always be talking about, what they did over the weekend or how they were using their extracurricular time and those kind of things to really identify. And as you said, Eli, I agree. I mean, the more you do that and really build that work-life balance, the more successful you're going to be and the more productive. I think the productivity piece is key. The more productive you're going to be. If you're stressed out all the time, you'll find that it takes you a lot longer to get things done and you don't do them as well either. So, it's an interesting concept. So, I think pursuing success in your work can really costs you the most important thing in life if you don't find that right life-work balance. It's time with your kids, it's time with your spouse. It could be difficult to achieve, but as we said, I think if you can understand the relationship and how it works, the sooner in your career, the more successful and happier you're going to be. So after this break, we're going to offer some tips for creating and maintaining a work-life balance. So
We dads and father figures need each other. We need a safe, non-judgmental place to share our stories, challenges, heartaches, and joys. Fathering Strong is just such a place. A new online community of connected, engaged, and empowered fathers. Learn more at www.fatheringstrong.com.
all right, well, welcome back to Father and Strong Podcast. Today we've taken up the topic on keeping your balance, working that work-life relationship and keeping the balance in your life. We've compiled 5 tips for creating work-life balance, and let's start with some things that you can do at work. Eli, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I think, as was said before, that setting boundaries, it may be number one. At work, it's important to let your colleagues know what your work hours are and stick to them, and limit those overtime hours. The money is nice when you work by the hour and you get the extra overtime, but really be careful. I would recommend be careful about taking too much of that, because it's really taking away from other important things that you should be doing. It's taking away time from your children, from your wife or parenting partner. It's taking away time from things that are really fulfilling for you outside of work. So there's a cost that probably is a higher cost than the extra money that you make is going to provide. So I think setting boundaries at number one is pretty wise. And watch out for those after hours emails as well. I struggle with this because, especially when you like what you do, you're really passionate about it. It's easy to keep that phone within arm's reach and take it into the restroom with you and just have it with you everywhere, because you don't want to miss any emails. You don't want to miss any messages. After all, it might be important. But again, it's like working overtime, because that's stealing important time away from the other important things in life that you really can't get back. I mean, every minute spent on that phone is taking away from something else, and we've really got to count the cost. Is it worth it? Better to optimize your work time so that you really don't need to be on call, as it were, 18, 24 hours a day. Just try to get it all done during your work time. Focus on completing your tasks during your work hours to avoid taking work home. Now, again, I'm not being a hypocrite. I have said I'm working on this myself. So we're in this together, but it's really important. I think I've been doing a little bit better, but I've got a ways to go as well, and perhaps you do. So try to minimize the distractions you have at work that can sometimes sidetrack you from getting things done, which then will mean that you're tempted to take your computer home and to work from home because you didn't get it all done at work. And if you're having trouble with that, I'd say talk about it. Communicate with your coworkers. Talk to your employer about it. And, accommodations can probably be made to help you to minimize distractions that can cause you to not get it all done when you need to get it done and not have to take work home. And it might even mean, doing some remote work. But that's another thing to be careful about, right, Bruce? It's careful not to go that route and then take it too far. We were talking about that earlier today.
Yeah, I think one of the things I found is helpful is, as you talk about setting boundaries is critical. And you almost need today, in today's work society with virtual and emails, as you said, coming in, you almost need to set your time on your schedule when you're not going to work. So you have that on your schedule. So okay, on these particular times, these particular days, I'm not going to, do this particular work. I'm going to, put your kids' events on your calendar. So your workers, who have access to your calendar, if that works, where you have your office, they'll know that you're not going to be home or you're not going to be available. So I think it's just as important to put your free time or your time you're spending with your family on your calendar as it is your work time, just to set those boundaries, because it's so difficult now that a lot of people are working virtual, and their home is their office. So how do you set those boundaries? So I think that's a critical piece.
Yeah, and what I try to practice is when I put something on my calendar that's family related, it's time I've got that I'm setting aside for my kid or for my wife. I treat that with just as much importance, if not more importance, than work appointments. And I try to protect that and not let things, no matter how seemingly critical or crucial or how much of an emergency it might be, I try to prioritize that time. It's important to do. That's just as important, if not more important, than work appointments. Plan and delegate. Make your schedule, and then have other people do some of the things that other people can do, so that your weekly schedule is pared down to the things that only you can do. And when it comes to at home, make a schedule that's complete. It's got your work hours. It's also got child care and family meals and quality time together and all those things on it too. And that family time doesn't mean that you're doing anything. It could be just hangout time, but you've got that time carved out in your schedule on your calendar, whether you use a phone or you use the old-fashioned paper, what do they call those little notebooks that we used to use to
Day timers.
the
Day
daytimer.
timers. Yeah.
Yeah. Put it on there so that you know that, okay, that's family time. And it doesn't mean that you're doing anything with family. Just hanging out is doing something with your family. And for goodness gracious sake, guard those weekends and evenings. We're going to talk about that later on in our next podcast. But protect those evenings and weekends whenever possible. That's something that I have always struggled with, to try to make most, if not all, of that weekend and evening time exclusively for personal and family life. Schedule weekly dates with your spouse and your child. It's not enough to say, okay, we're gonna spend some time together. I would actually put it on your calendar, literally. Time with Johnny, 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever it is, such and such a date. And then, as I said a few minutes ago, treat that just like, if not with more importance than a work appointment. Because you know what? In the total scheme of things, it's probably more important than anything that you might be doing at work, because that's your child, and you are building a relationship with them that is eternal. So prioritize and treat those dates with great respect.
And you can find out too, just like everything in life, that if you don't have a schedule, you'll find something to fill your time, and it's not productive time. And, if you have those specific deadlines on that calendar, it forces you to be productive during the times you need to. And then it also shows, the individuals that are on your calendar, their importance in your life, that you have set a priority for them. So I think all of those points you just made, are key in really
Yeah,
making sure you've got that work-life balance. So.
that's right. And when you're with them, it's important, again, broken record, put that phone away and focus on connecting with your family members. Well, we need to do a whole, one of these times, we'll do a whole episode on this, because it is such a problem and such a challenge today, the distractions of phones. It's important to focus on your family, connect with them, and that probably means turning the phone off. I know, that's scary, but turning it off is probably the best thing to do. That way, it's not going to go off. You're not going to be constantly looking at it, and it breaks us of that habit of always picking it up to see what's there. So power it off, and also computer games if that happens to be one of your things. And I can't tell you how many times I used to be in the insurance business, Bruce. This was many years ago, and my first insurance job was actually as a door-to-door servicer. In other words, I had a route, and I would go around and I would visit my policyholders to collect their premiums and try to upgrade their coverage and things like this. And it was just incredible to me how many homes I would go into, and they would have this huge TV. Now, this was years ago. This is before flat screens. They would have these big old TVs taking up most of the wall. They're living in poverty, but they've got this huge TV and it's constantly on. Not only is it on, it's up loud, and it's the center of attention. And it's hard to have a conversation because of that TV. And if you ask them to turn it off or turn it down, it's like you're asking them to sacrifice a child. I mean, it's really a problem, and it has only gotten worse. So I would say turn off the TV so that you can actually have conversations with your other family members. I really, I'm concerned that we are losing touch with each other as human beings, and we're kind of seeing the art of communication and relationship building become a thing of the past in some circles. But we can change that. We can change that by being intentional about turning off distractions, whatever they are, so that we can actually have quality time with the people that we love.
You mean texting each other while you're sitting at the table is not the right way to communicate?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, for us baby boomers and older individuals out there that may be listening, we know there's life before cell phones and smartphones, right? I mean, we used to live that life where we didn't have these distractions, and you had to actually go out and talk to the neighbors or, have a conversation with someone. And I think we're going to see that sort of circling back again because of, we thought technology was going to be the, savior of all, communication because we could communicate so more effectively. But what we found is just absorbed so much of our time and energy. And I think as you talk about just, make sure people understand when you say turning your phone off, for most people, that means putting them on silent, and you're talking about turning it off all the way, so
Right.
it really gets to the point of making that transition and creating that clear boundary of spending quality time, with your kids. I saw a seminar from Simon Sinek. I don't know if you know him, does a lot of marketing, a lot of different types of communications. And he sort of gave the scenario one time we were talking about, are you really listening and paying attention to me? And he had his phone in his hand, and he said, even though I have my phone off and it's turned, I have it turned away from me, you still probably think that this is more important to me than you are. And so he was really trying to give the example to someone to show them that if you really want them to feel important, you need to spend time and focus on them. So, as you said, put that phone down. I would even say, one of the things we did, I didn't have as much of a problem with my kids because that's right when the smartphones were coming out, and as they were growing up, they weren't all getting the smartphones until they got to college. But now when we have them come over, we have a little basket on the desk and say, okay, all the phones go here while we're having dinner, just to make sure that, everybody's not eating dinner and looking at their phone. And, and sometimes it's painful for them. And I know as an employer, We would have to do that a lot of times with our employees. Say, smartphones go into the lockers. You can't have those while you're on the floor, because if you do, you're not focused on the customer. And you see that all around in a lot of different retail environments now, where the staff is on their phone and you're trying to talk to them and they're not paying attention to you. So I think that's a key attribute of just making sure you stay focused.
Yeah, I think that's so good. That's so good. And one more thing, and I think you mentioned this earlier as well, create a mental and physical separation between work and family life. When you work from home, this is particularly important. Have a room that you can actually go inside that room and shut the door. And that's your workspace, so that you can concentrate, you can get your work done. And when you've got that work done, leave that room, shut the door, never to return until it's time to go back to work, so that you actually have a physical separation between your work time and your family time. So in these days when so many people are working from home, I think that's a very important thing to be thinking about doing. Now, we've said all that, and perhaps you're feeling a bit convicted. Don't. None of us are getting this perfectly. So embrace the imperfection. Just know that it's a progress. It's a work in progress. And there are going to be those days when you feel like you've just got it all out of whack. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up about that. Just recognize it, and then recommit to doing better and moving on. There's going to be days when it seems like you're leaning more towards work or more towards family. It's okay. We're all figuring it out. The idea is to work at it as we together strive for having an overall balance over time. And we said it before, and I'll say it again. Talk about it. Have open communication with your employer. Talk about it with your partner, to make sure that everybody's on the same page and they understand what you're trying to do, and that the goal is finding a balance between family and work, so that you can be your best in all that you do, and so that you can give your best to all that you're committed to. So everybody's family is different. Everyone's work situation may be a little bit different. So finding what works for you is the key. Finding what helps you to be able to have a balanced and fulfilling life for yourself and for your family. Now, beyond working for a work-life balance, it's important to achieve a total life balance. Total life balance. Now, here's what I mean by that. The basic idea is we want to strive to be whole. Human beings are multidimensional. We're like a human trinity: body, soul, and spirit. We are a spirit. God made us a spirit, but we have a soul, and we live in a body. So there are three parts to us. And to be truly healthy, to be truly whole, thus the word holistic, we've got to be whole in total and not just in part. So after this timeout, we're going to talk about that and suggest some ways that you can achieve and maintain holistic health, because in my mind, that is true balance. Stay with us.
Do you know a new father who could benefit from a basic introduction to healthy fathering principles? POPS 101, a free online course consisting of 4 one-hour sessions in English or Spanish, could be perfect for him. POPS 101 lays out practical steps toward becoming the protector, order keeper, provider, and stabilizer his child needs. Learn more at urbanlight.org.
Well, welcome back to Fathering Strong Podcast. I'm Bruce Stapleton here with Pastor Eli Williams. And before the break, you were discussing, how we can achieve holistic health and balance. So why don't you continue on? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, as I said, we're sort of a trinity: body, soul, and spirit. There are three parts to us, and we're all interconnected. We are one person, but we've got these different aspects of us, and it's important that we are healthy totally. There's an author by the name of David Diga Hernandez, and he wrote a book called Body, Soul, and Spirit Simply Explained. This book came out back in 2021, and he really offers some keen insight into what that means. So I'm going to read from it, and I'm quoting here when it comes to the body. He says, your body is your earth suit. I like that. Your body is your connection with this world. Your body is the vehicle through which you experience the natural realm. Every single interaction that you share with others is through your body. With the body, you speak and communicate with your physical being. You see, hear, and touch the world around you. I like that. It's your earth suit. That's what connects us with the world around us. And then the soul. He says, the soul is the realm of decision. In the soul lives your mind, will, emotions, and personality. Your mind, what you imagine. Your will, what you want. Your emotions, what you feel. The soul is the neutral ground between the body and the spirit. It is the place where free will is exercised. The soul is eternal, and everyone has a soul. So this is so good because it helps us to understand that we've got that body that is in touch with what's going on in the world. And then we've got that soul, which is our inner person. That's where we are feeling things and we're reasoning and we're making decisions. It's where we have a will, and that needs to be healthy as well. And then there's the spirit. The author says, your spirit is your connection with God. It is the innermost part of your being, the center of you, the source of your identity. Your spirit is the deepest part of you, and your spirit knows perfect fellowship with God. End quote. Yes, it is our spirit that is actually who we really are in the deepest core of our being. And our spirit is eternal. God created us a spirit. And when we die, the body dies, it goes back to the ground. Our soul goes into rest, and our spirit returns to God who gave it. So it's important that we are healthy spiritually, because that really is who we are at our very core. So the goal is to be holistically healthy in body, soul, and spirit. So we like to talk about bodily exercise, right? But it goes beyond just exercising the body. Yes, we've got to eat nutritious meals and have a well-balanced diet and all that. And we've got to exercise the body to make sure it's in good shape. But we also need to regularly feed our minds. And we need to be careful what we feed our minds. We should feed our minds accurate information. There's so much information, which is really misinformation and disinformation out there. You know, with the advent of the internet, there are just so many things out there that we can read, that we can consume, that actually isn't even true. And if we fill our minds with that, then we've got an unhealthy mind. We need uplifting information and information that's accurate, so that we can make good decisions, so that our will is strong for the right things, and so that our emotions are expressing good and sound things. And finally, the spirit. We need to be receiving and maintaining a strong connection with God. And we do that through consistent exercise of spiritual disciplines like prayer and Bible reading, and worship and fellowship, and even fasting. These are things that are important for us to be strong spiritually and have a strong connection with God, which is really going to take us through this life in ways that our bodies and soul alone cannot do. It really is what the Bible means when it says that Jesus came that we might have life and that we would have it more abundantly. It's the rich life. It's the full life when we have a healthy, holistic life balance. as we're continuing our fathering journey. So I want to encourage all of the dads out there who are listening, anyone, in fact, who's listening, to pay attention to taking care that you are healthy, body, soul, and spirit, that you're balanced and whole in that way as you seek for a family work-life balance as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this podcast this week, just talking about that, because we're going to just sort of segue into that next week when we start talking about working from rest. So I think that really starts a topic and helps people understand the importance of work-life balance. So, well, that's all we have for today for this week's Fathering Strong podcast. So make sure you take a look at this week's Fathering Strong blog post, either on urbanlight.org or at fatheringstrong.com.
In the Word of God is this inspiring benediction. It's from 1 Thessalonians 5:23, and I'm reading it from the New Living Translation. It says, "Now may the God of peace make you holy in every way, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless until our Lord Jesus Christ comes again." May the Lord bless you as you give your child what no one else on earth can. That is your fully developed father love. And that's Fathering Strong.
Fathering Strong podcast is a production of Urban Light Ministries with technical assistance from the Momentum Group, and Harold Rayford provides the theme music. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Fathering Strong is powered by Urban Light Ministries, a not-for-profit organization serving the needs of families and children for nearly 30 years. Your support helps us continue turning the hearts of fathers to their children while meeting some of the immediate critical needs of struggling families with small children. Contributions of all sizes are welcomed at www.urbanlight.org.